So let's go on then, because then I'm interested to see whether I have any penance to pay, because I think it was myself who suggested our next movie, which is Knockoff.
Yes, so we recently covered a film in which old JC punched a cobra. And in this episode, he's already beaten up a penguin and kicked a tiger. Here, he's destroying some pumas.
I didn't even think about that while we were watching it.
I was looking for one all the way
done,
through.
sir.
It's the best one I could come up.
Well done, sir.
Sadly, though, they're the German running shoe type. And our JCVD fighting animals theme is shown at last to be nothing more than a paper-thin veneer over our desire just to continue talking about JCVD. The truth.
Sorry. That's so much better a link than this film deserves, or any of this deserves, to be honest.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know why that tickled me. Oh dear, sorry, Drew.
Yeah. The truth will out, but our desire to shoehorn more JCV into our feed will out. Here, Monsieur Van Varenberg teams up once more with Choi Hawk, but Dennis Rodman is replaced in the Don't Give Up the Day Job co-star role by Rob Schneider, whose day job this unfortunately is.
Oh dear.
The script is from Die Hard co-writer Stephen E. D'Souza. Strange how these things seem to cross-pollinate, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And involves Rob Schneider's Tommy Hendricks and his partner, JCVD's Marcus Ray, and their business of manufacturing jeans for a US fashion brand, and also making and selling counterfeit goods, but not the counterfeit jeans that are an important plot point. That was somebody else, apparently. And Tommy is also a CIA operative who has been working undercover in Hong Kong for 4 years on something, but not the thing that the film's about, which is miniaturized Russian explosives disguised as button batteries and studs, as he's totally oblivious to that until Marcus literally steps on. This is a dumb film. The whole thing is about a sub James Bond plot by some Russians, possibly the Russian mafia, to plant the devices in lots of everyday objects, such as those aforementioned counterfeit jeans, as well as electronics and toys, and then extort $100 million a month from the US government to not blow them all up. There's also a Hong Kong detective, I think, who seems to be doing his own investigation into the explosives and who, unlike Tommy, does know about them, as he has a handy miniaturized exploding battery location device. Though the hows and the whys of this are not considered important for we poor viewers, who also have to put up with horrible camera work and editing, bizarre slow-mo, and blurring while having no idea what's going on, or having any reason to care. To add to the mystery, the film is also set in a few days before Hong Kong was returned to Chinese rule, with the finale taking place during the ceremonies themselves, though for no good reason, and instead raising the question of why the celebrations are still going ahead the day after a Hong Kong landmark was blown sky high, along with hundreds of people, by terrorists. Did I mention that this is a dumb film? And I nearly forgot. One of the opening scenes involves an underground, unlicensed charity rickshaw race, in which people cheat and others get maimed and injured. You know, for charity.
The charity being support the maimed rickshaw runners.
Additionally, the poster is one of the ugliest and dullest I think I've ever seen, especially for a film of this scale. TriStar Pictures are hardly being unable.
I love that you're drilling into the poster now.
It's so bad though, Craig.
It really is.
TriStar Pictures are partly being unable to allocate any of the film's $35 million budget to more than 5 minutes of an artist's time. Though I suppose the poster does at least set one's expectations appropriately.
The poster was clearly done by the intern, wasn't it? It's like, oh cool, your second day in Photoshop and you made this.
I certainly had reservations about watching this when Craig suggested it due to the presence of Rob Schneider, but and I can barely believe I'm saying this. Knockoff manages to underuse him.
Yeah.
For at least half of the film, and probably more, Schneider doesn't give what could be called a Rob Schneider performance. He's just there, largely inoffensively. However, at a few points the script does call for him to be more annoying and, well, Schneidery, and he's not there for it. Though it's not his fault. This film has caused me to defend Rob Schneider. What the hell is happening? Knockoff is a complete dud. Confusing, stupid, messy, and unlike Double Team, which is atrociously bad but at least kept me constantly asking who, what, and why, it's just too damn boring to care about. Needs real Pumas out of 10.
I didn't hate this movie quite as much as you, but it's interesting. I think my opening gambit on this was that unbelievably I did not find Rob Schneider to be insufferable. So that makes two of us, Drew.
He was fine for the most part. He was,
yeah.
you know.
I think there's an argument to be made that if this had been a slightly better film, that in terms of like production value, this is the opposite of Double Team, in that it's far better to send Hollywood talent to Hong Kong to make a Hong Kong movie that just happens to have Hollywood talent in it. I think it hangs together somewhat more coherently as a movie than Double Team, if not in terms of the amount of time that's been lavished on coming up with a plot. And the thing that I enjoyed most about it, so in the last compare and contrast episodes that you guys recorded, Scott spoke about Van Damme loosening up a bit and giving the appearance of enjoying himself more. And that definitely applies to him here. He's clearly having a whale of a time. And he's actually not that bad a comic performer. And his performance here is very much more sort of in a comic vein than something more traditional that you would expect from a Van Damme movie. I think I'd probably make a lot of the same comments about this film as Scott did about Double Impact, so I'm going to avoid parroting that. I thought there were actually elements to enjoy about this. I would add that in this instance, Hawk actually seems a lot more evident as a presence behind the camera. There's a good deal more martial arts for a start, although bizarrely I understand that a lot of the final fight scenes between Van Damme and the two main bad guys on the boat got chopped in the edit.
They can see most of the martial arts thanks to editing and really strange framing.
I really want to know what's going on there, because was it Sammo Hung was the fight choreographer for this film?
Sammo Hung was the fight choreographer in Double Team. I'm not sure about this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was on this as well, and for some reason I would love to know why they excised the fight stuff, as it just didn't work. I can't believe that for a minute, because the stuff that's been left in isn't that great in that sort of final scene. And yes, I have made a note that most notably the camera is almost always doing something interesting in this movie. Every second shot in this film is from a unique perspective, and boy does it not work. It certainly gave me an interesting game to play, and I called that game Don't Vomit While I Guess the Next Angle. It's all over the place, and it's not so much. I think it's the photographic equivalent of just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, but really not much of it sticks. The other thing that this movie evidences is that Hollywood production simply cannot echo this, is that Hong Kong stunt performers are so willful in disregard of their own physical faculties that it beggars belief. And I can't imagine that they've unionised yet, but this is still very much at the peak of that, hey, jump out of the way of this uncontrolled car and hope for the best period in Hong Kong action cinema. There's a bit at the end of this film where I was just like, you know the scene where they're in the car and they drive the car out of the window aiming for the top of the shipping container?
Yes.
And whether or not it was intended, the car does not land properly on the shipping container, and it's surrounded by stunt performers, and there is so clearly no control of how that car is performing, where it's going, what speed it's doing, what the best these guys could have hoped for was in terms of which way are we going to get out of the way, because it is clearly just a random act of physics. And the fact that nobody got mashed by that car in that scene is baffling. Absolutely baffling, and you know that those guys are not getting paid enough. I don't care what the budget of this film is, man. Those Hong Kong stunt actors are not getting paid enough. This is just, oh my god, the production value of this film is among the better ones. However, it just feels like a really wasted opportunity because I got the real sense that this was more comfortable being a Hong Kong set Hong Kong action movie, but it just doesn't work off the back of that script. The script is absolutely bizarre. What are we talking about? Exploding jeans rivets? What? And it's about half an hour into the film where I thought there was something really wrong with the grading of the film or something, where I'm like, why do all the explosions look green in this movie? What is this? Is there just a huge amount of sulphur in the atmosphere of over Hong Kong? But it gets explained about half an hour in, and you're like, all right, okay. But it's not necessary to the plot whatsoever.
Yeah, and like neither's that entire first section when like you show them blowing up and the dolls filled with these things blowing up under the water.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was going on there at all.
No, I didn't either. I actually stopped at 5 minutes in and I went back because I was adamant that I had missed something or I'd missed a key piece of dialogue, and it's just, no, just don't expect an explanation for that anytime soon, anytime in the first half of the movie. I think it's startling that Rob Schneider isn't offensive in this. It's really, wow, mind-blowing to think about. I can't help but feel this is just ever so slightly just missed the mark, and that it's just gone off the edge of what could have been actually a halfway decent movie if it had just a better script underneath it. Because Van Damme's having a whale of a time, and I actually thought he was pretty engaging in this. But the rest of the film just doesn't hang together whatsoever.
Well, I don't know. It's weird. I get what you're saying about Van Damme kind of doing this almost like comedically, but he's the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just Double Team that Sammo Hung was on, Craig. He wasn't credited on Knockoff. So
was he not? Okay.
Maybe had he been, he might have got the cinematographer to actually frame the shot so people could see the martial arts.
Yeah.
So, like, it's so, the Rob Schneider thing's the thing that's getting me about this. But the script is so poor.
Yeah.
There's that bit near the end. It's one of the bits I was referring to, and I said that it needs to be a bit Rob Schneider. Like, the woman who turns up, who's also in the CIA.
Yeah.
And apparently, if you put CIA badges under ultraviolet light, it says valid. That's how you know they're a real CIA agent.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. She's like, she's tied up next to Rob Schneider, and he makes some comment, and she says, "Oh, get him away from me!" Like, that only works if you'd had him being really irritating for the last couple of minutes.
Yeah,
and you can't just drop that in there without it setting up at all. The whole thing is such a mess.
This thing, do you know what? Actually, it's just occurred to me, and I can't believe it didn't occur to me while I was watching it, is that this ought to have been a Jackie Chan movie. This is like a script, because we were talking about Van Damme's the only one behaving in that sort of slightly slapstick way. And if you actually think about the physicality of the role and some of the stuff later on with him kicking his way in between sort of shipping containers as they're sliding about the boat, that's got all the hallmarks of a Jackie Chan, like a rejected Jackie Chan script. You can imagine Jackie Chan in his role.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, because you can see that clearly Van Damme can do that stuff, because he's like the bit he's scrabbling along the floor to get away from the shipping container.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the garage when he's crawling around the pillar.
Yeah.
Like he's clanging on like a wee spider monkey on top of this pillar before he jumps down and takes out the gang that are chasing him.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But you don't really get to see most of what he's doing for the rest of the time, because it's constant chopping, weird blurriness and slow-mo, horrible camera angles. It's just a mess of a film.
Yeah. I appreciate that they were trying to do something with the cinematography, but sometimes less is more. It's just bizarre. Just the choices in this are bizarre. I was really looking forward to this because it had been recommended to me by people some time ago, back round about when it came out, to be honest with you, when I was working in one of my first jobs, and I've never gotten around to watching it. So I think probably of the movies that we've spoken about tonight, I think there's no doubt that we'd probably put this at the bottom of the pile.
Comfortably.
It's more consistent in behaving like a movie than Double Team is, but then Double Team just feels like it's trying to be something different entirely, and it kind of makes a better fist of that, specific thing it's doing.
Knockoff's script is still terrible. It doesn't make a lick of sense again.
No.
But you can sort of joint up in your mind a bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas Double Team's basically a fever dream.
Yeah.
and it's all the better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Knockoff's just conventionally bad, but I didn't hate it. I was just bored by it.
Yeah.
Whereas Double Team doesn't let you get bored.
Yeah.
It's like, this is terrible. Why is this terrible thing happening? Why is he doing this? Why is this happening? Who is he? What is... And like, you constantly question it, but it makes it really, really engaging.
Yeah.
Not good, but engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about Double Team is that it kind of comes across as though maybe David Lynch had tried to make an action movie. maybe that's a good way of describing it. I don't know. It's probably not. I would like to see David Lynch make an action movie. Actually, there's an idea. But there we go.
The basketball players are not what they seem.
No. Oh no, you're on fire tonight, mate. So here's the question for our listeners. Oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay, very topical at the moment with everything that's going on right now with the good old COVID-19. I have spotted that Jean-Claude Van Damme may very well be an effective transmission vector for this virus, because not once during any of these movies did I see him wash his feet. And he was putting his feet in a lot of people's faces. That's all I'm saying.